From Martina so far in this first set. First serve really hasn't worked up to its usual high standard. What cost her that other serve?
Sobrang di ko pa mapaniwala. Maraming salamat sa suporta. Sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa akin.
I think for United States, especially the juniors, I think it's a great opportunity to be exposed to this level. And this
best moment, I think, was the happiest I've ever been was winning first Wimbledon.
Navratilova blows up. Ella is from Australia. A racial controversy is sparked by an open nightmare. A 24-hour deadline was set. Welcome back to Tennis Champions, the only location where we cover more than just tennis. We reveal the turmoil, the dispute, and the devastation shown in the mainstream media refuses to touch. Get comfortable if you're new here, because we're going to take you on a thrilling journey through one of the finest explosive tales to smash the tennis court globe in years. Additionally, if you're a returning champion, as you are probably aware, we transmit the heat. We're diving today. Dive yourself into a tale that has the whole tennis establishment is in a panic. For protection, we are discussing the disastrous Australian Open that has left legends enraged, fans incensed, and a teenage celebrity caught in the crossfire of what many consider to be brazen disdain. Everyone was talking about the name. The inquiry was blazing through Alexa. Social media. Why is there racism? Martina, the 18-time Grand Slam champion, Navratilova champion, and a woman who has never been fearful of confronting injustice, has allegedly launched a verbal attack on organizers of the event that is echoing in every area of the realm of tennis. The accused offense, pushing the Filipino phenomenon onto a praised practice court as thousands of her admirers were left in disarray, causing dreams about security and parenting awkward inquiries on how the sports handle their up-and-coming players from underrepresented countries. However, here's when the juiciness increases. While Melbourne is still in shock after the Alexandra Eala has already moved away from the aftermath. She arrived in Manila like a fighter, coming back from combat, and she's got incomplete business. The Philippines, the Women's Open will soon take place. There is no redemption. And you know who's obstructing her path throughout the first round? A competitor from Russia who destroyed her six several years ago. This isn't only a tennis match. Match no longer. This is private. This is concerning pride. This is to demonstrate that the girl in Melbourne that they attempted to bury is, in fact, a natural force that cannot be contained. So take hold of your coffee, turn off your phone, and go to We're Going Deep, so it's comfy. We're talking anarchy on the courtside, global events, celebrity conflicts, as well as a return home that might characterize a whole career. This is the Australian Open narrative of Alexandra Eala nightmare and her resurrection in Manila. Now let's get started. The catastrophe started not with a defeat, not with a wound, but with a scheduling choice that is so confusing that it has led to a worldwide controversy. The 20-year-old Alexandra Eala phenomena that has won people over of millions in Southeast Asia and beyond reached the Australian Open as the world's 49th ranked athlete. Take a time to consider it. This is there not an unidentified qualifier scraping her way through the first rounds. This is a genuine player in the top 50 with grand junior level slam pedigree, a WTA, a social media account, and a championship under her belt after competitors' players were rated in the top 10. Where, then, did the Australian Open organizers choose to book her? Debut in the main draw? Rod Laver Arena under the lights, the greatest stars perform. Margaret Court Arena, the customary place for emerging talent. Court 3, choke when there is space for a suitable crowd. No, and not at all. They place her on Court 6. For those who are not acquainted given the design of Melbourne Park, Court 6 is what tennis experts kindly refer to as a backcourt. The rest of us would refer to as a shoebox. It could accommodate a couple hundred people if you cram them in. Similar to sardines. No giants exist. Screens. There is very little infrastructure. This kind of court is where you all the first-round games between players that are not in the top 200, not a worldwide celebrity with an ardent fan base. The choice was greeted with rapid backlash. Tennis in the Philippines' social media communities exploded. In shock. How could the competition create such a blatant math error? However, the organizers remained steadfast and the game was planned. What came next was completely foreseeable to everyone who has been observing Eala's rapid ascent. However, it seemed to arrive as a total surprise at the Australian Open Committee for Planning. A few hours before the game was about to start, and people began coming in. Not hundreds, not dozens, thousands. We are discussing a huge surge of supporters from the Philippines, many of who had come from all throughout Australia and even arrived by plane from the Philippines, especially to see their idol compete on the Grand Slam platform. They arrived flags that are as big as bed linens. They arrived with chanting, drums, and face paint in shades of red, white, blue, and the Philippine flag is yellow. They arrived prepared to transform a tennis match into a festival, a festivity, an occasion of pride in the country. And there was nowhere to place them. The sights outside of Court 6 swiftly deteriorated into anarchy. The minimal capacity was attained within minutes after the gates opened. Safety employees felt overburdened. Thousands of supporters pushed against obstacles, yearning for even a peek of the court. The queues extended for what eyewitnesses reported as hundreds of meters, meandering over the property like an agitated dragon. People were devastated. Amid the heat together, anger erupted. The likelihood that we would desire Alex rang out throughout. Even the players can hear Melbourne Park. Using the practice courts to warm up. Security for the tournament was compelled to contact as a backup. The police were placed on standby. The circumstances had worsened from a scheduling disruption to a valid safety worry, due to the fact that someone in the tournament office had misjudged Alex's ability to sketch. Also, did they? That's where the narrative goes. A more sinister turn. Social media took off, with a persistent query. Why? Why would you assign a player who millions of fans, a participant who is possibly the greatest active athlete in a country with 115 million people on a court that was unable to hold even a little portion of her backing? Supporters began doing the calculations. They examined each other. Matches that were planned for that day on the program courts. They saw players with lesser rankings compared to Eala. They saw athletes with less star power, smaller fan bases, and fewer interesting narratives, and they were all treated more favorably. The discussions were heated. The term disrespect became popular. And after that, the charge that no one in tennis is interested in hearing. However, many were, was this racism, I wondered? Was this done yet? And further illustration of tennis institution that handles athletes from unconventional tennis countries as second-class citizens, regardless of their popularity or their ranking. These weren't trolls or fringe voices stirring up trouble. They were seasoned tennis players, supporters, leaders in the Filipino community, and sports reporters posing reasonable inquiries about systemic prejudice and how competitions distribute their most valuable publicity, court time, and resources. The Australian Open included a public relations crisis on its hands, and it was going to be becoming very worse. Let Martina Navratilova, an individual who has devoted her all of one's life fighting for equality and equity in athletics. The American of Czech descent legend who left the Communist Party Czechoslovakia should seek independence and tennis glory, who battled for the same award funds for women, who has been a vocal supporter of LGBTQ rights and social justice, allegedly observed what was occurring in Melbourne and made the decision to had enough. According to many stories that are doing the rounds in tennis media and social media, Navratilova didn't minimize your words. According to reports, she faced the problem head-on, posing the question everyone was thinking about it, but that few people with her platform have the courage to speak up in public. Why is there racism? Those three terms ascribed to one of the most reputable voices in sports changed this from a dispute to an emergency. Now, we must be explicit about something. Navratilova Martina is not reactionary people trying to stir things up trouble. She is a Hall of Famer whose opinion is very important in the tennis community. When she talks, people pay attention. When she refers to something as severe and fraught as racism, she's not taking things lightly. She's creating a determined assertion that there is a basic issue with how this issue was resolved. Her purported, according to reports, criticism concentrated on a number of important points. Initially, the inability to acknowledge Alex Eala as the worldwide she's become a sensation. This isn't only about ranking. This relates to knowing how to play tennis today environment in which players can have enormous impact and attractive power that surpasses their present standing in the rankings. Eala has more than 1 million followers just on Instagram. She has been included in global advertising campaigns. She is well known throughout Asia. Ignoring that is not only harmful, it's deliberate blindness in business. The alleged double standard comes in second. Navratilova is said to have noted that if this player were British, and an Australian or an American player with a ranking that is half that of Eala and a small portion of her fan base, they would have been assigned a prime position. The implication was unsettling and obvious. The tennis facility is still in operation, with unconsciousness or possibly even deliberate prejudices regarding which players merit the limelight and which can be moved to the periphery. Thirdly, the consequences for safety. By establishing a circumstance in which thousands of fans were refused entry and possibly hazardous crowding circumstances, the tournament had not fulfilled its fundamental obligation of concern. Not only was this embarrassing, it was careless and completely preventable if the organizers had just recognized reality and made plans as a result. The reaction to Navratilova's comments were reported quickly, but they were divided. Many tennis players and progressive supporters the media commended her for saying what was necessary to be expressed. They maintained that tennis has long had an issue with the way it handles participants from developing markets, and that this was just the newest and most obvious example. Conversely, tournament defenders as well as some traditionalists resisted, demanding this was just a scheduling mistake, not proof of institutionalized discrimination. However, the harm had already been done. The narrative had left the tennis forums behind, and community pages for Filipinos. Now it was worldwide news. Leading sports publications were retrieving it. The expression "the racism scandal at the Australian Open" was popular throughout the world, and the competition organizers, who had not said anything during the first controversy, encountered a 24-hour ultimatum. Filipino fandoms, sports, community organizations, and, according to reports, advocacy networks collectively to make a coordinated demand. They sought explanations. They desired an official justification for the timetable choice. They demanded an apology for the chaos and the contempt. Additionally, they desired it in a day, or they would escalate the issue to the International Tennis Federation, requesting an official examination of possible bias in court scheduling and allocations procedures. This was no longer merely about one player or one game. This had turned into a vote on how tennis handles diversity and how it appreciates various markets and if it's actually devoted to becoming the world's most popular sports as they are. One is the Australian Open. Of the top 4 competitions in the world was dealing with a legitimacy crisis, and time was of the essence. However, the problem with all of this chaos and controversy, there was still a real tennis match that had to be played. And Alex Eala, who was staring of this global calamity, still had to enter that small, crowded court 6 and engage in top-tier competition of the game. The strain on her youth's shoulders were enormous. Not only was she making it to the main draw of the Australian Open debut, she was carrying a lot of weight. Of the expectations of a whole country, a logistical nightmare is developing around her in an expanding worldwide incident that she never requested. Her rival was American citizen Alicia Parks, a strong 23-year-old with a risky game centered on a huge serve and forceful hitting from the baseline. Parks arrived 97th in the world going into the match, making this a traditional conflict between a risky floater and a rising star. On the paper, it was competitive. Within the court SIX's heated environment, it became something quite different. When Alex Eala entered the court, the sound was utterly deafening. All of the available every seat was occupied. Each and every standing room the space was full. The admirers who had made inside, we were committed to producing enough noise for the thousands of people who were unable to win. It resembled a tennis match less and more akin to a boxing or football match. It was an electrifying atmosphere, frightening and completely unusual for a first round of the Grand Slam. Additionally, for the first half hour, it appeared as though Alex Eala intended to ride that surge of energy right into the second round. She launched a full-scale assault on everyone. Cylinders. She moved with clarity. Her ball striking was forceful and clean. The location of her shot was surgical. Alicia Parks, despite her strength and skill, appeared utterly overpowered by both the athlete on the other side of the net and that they were surrounded by a boisterous crowd. Eala broke Parks' serve early and didn't check back. During the first set, she was drawing the lines and hitting winners from impossible angles and demonstrating the type of bold tennis that has enabled her to what a thrilling prospect. The Filipino fans were ecstatic. Each and every the Ilo's victory was hailed as a Grand Slam title. The opportunity never halted. There was never a drop in energy. Moreover, when Eala finished the opening set, 6 games to enjoy, bringing her a bagel American rival in front of this untamed crowd, it seemed as though fate was unfolding. An opening set of 6 love your debut in the Grand Slam main draw against an opponent ranked in the top 100 in front of thousands of your fellow citizens. This was the material of fantasies. This was the time that was intended to put an end to all criticism, respond to all inquiries regarding scheduling, and notify the tennis Alex Eala had come to the world. The script was flawless, but tennis, like any a true fan, is aware that they don't adhere to scripts. Tennis is taught in a cruel way. Humility just when you believe you've figured it out. The second set started, and something changed. To Alicia Parks, her enormous credit, made changes. She gave up trying to keep up with Eala's speed and began enforcing her own rules. She started taking the ball and serving larger, earlier, and not giving in to intimidation by the partisan crowd. Where she had appeared hesitant during the first set, she appeared determined now. And gradually, the momentum started to swing inexorably. However, this is where the narrative takes a different complex turn. The group that had been a great help to Eala in the first set turned into a two-edged sword in the second. The Filipino supporters, eager to assist their hero, began to applaud each Parks mistake. They applauded when her first serve was missed. They applauded when she struck a long ball. They applauded loudly when she made a mistake twice. Within the moment's emotional heat, they crossed tennis etiquette lines that are seldom broken during professional games. Tradition in tennis requires that you celebrate well done and keep quiet, both in between serves and during points. You don't support your opponent's errors. You also don't cheer for 2 faults. It is regarded as subpar sportsmanship, and it's precisely the type of actions that could ignite a rival who is already having difficulties. Moreover, that's exactly what Alicia experienced. Parks. Later, the American athlete revealed reporters that the conduct of the crowd was challenging to handle, but that she used it as inspiration in the end. She became enraged. She got focused. She halted worrying about winning the fans over and started worrying only about winning the match. And her power game, which had been dormant in the first set, suddenly came roaring to life. Parks began hammering serves that couldn't return. She started dictating rallies with her forehand, pushing a back behind the baseline and forcing errors. The confident, aggressive from the first set was now scrambling, defending, trying to weather a storm that kept intensifying. Parks took the second set 6-3, and suddenly this match that had looked like a coronation was now a dogfight. The third set was brutal. A fought with everything she had. She saved break points. She chased down balls that seemed impossible to reach. She showed tremendous heart and resilience. But the power difference was becoming too much to overcome. Parks was simply hitting the ball harder and flatter than Eala could consistently handle. The American broke serve midway through the set and never gave it back. She closed out the match 6-2 in the third, completing an improbable comeback from a love downset. The work of Alex Eala, the debut in the Australian Open main draw, was over. On court 6, the dream had died. Same court that had provoked an global dispute. The last score 6-love 36-26 narrated a tale of dominance, demise, and finally defeat. However, anyone who saw that match is aware that the scoreline does not capture even a small portion of what truly occurred. Not only did Alex Eala lose a tennis match, she made it through a circus. She played in circumstances where no first-round player ought to have to put up with organizational chaos in the air. Outside the court, security concerns and global debate bearing on her youthful shoulders. Following the match, Eala demonstrated the type of class that has made her so adored. She didn't express dissatisfaction with the circumstances. She didn't offer justifications or place the blame on the crowd. She spoke with reporters and made a call to the heartwarming support in spite of the loss. She admitted that the mood was distinctive and exceptional, even if the outcome wasn't what she desired. After that, she spent signing autographs for almost an hour. The fans who had waited in the intense heat hours of Australian heat just to catch a look at her. She posed for pictures. She gave sobbing kids hugs. She expressed gratitude, people for their assistance. She displayed greater maturity and grace in the face of defeat than the organizers of the tournament appeared in their preparation. Additionally, that contrast didn't go unnoticed. Although the Australian Open kept interacting with the public relationship catastrophe developing around Alexandra Eala was already in motion. Forward. Champions don't focus on losses. They refocus, reload, and arrive back with greater strength. And that's precisely what Alexa did. Days after her arrival in Melbourne exit, she had already landed in Manila, going back to her native nation not as a defeated sportsman, but rather as a conquering hero getting ready for her next fight. The Women's Open in the Philippines. There is a historic WTA 125 tournament. The Rizal Memorial Tennis Center symbolizes something genuinely unique for tennis in the Philippines. For the first time, this kind of event has taken place on Philippine territory. It's a turning point. Moment for the nation's sport, and only one player has the ability to be its face, perhaps. Alexandra Eala is not merely taking part in this competition. The competition is her. She is the cause of the record-breaking ticket sales. Time. She is the cause of international the media is observing. She is the why young Filipino children are choosing tennis rackets for the first time. Should the Australian Open refuse to provide giving her the prominence she was due, the red carpet is being rolled out in Manila. Eala, who is seated second, is positioned for a lengthy run that might result in a title at home. However, the gods of tennis, always enjoyed dramatic narratives, had one more twist to this story. As soon as the draw was announced, Eala's first the opponent for the round was disclosed. Moreover, all of a sudden, this competition became about beyond redemption alone. It turned into concerning retaliation. Unexpected. Thrilled. After that, I would